order. Senators will be in your seats. Clerk will call the roll.
Alley. Baumgartner. Billinger. Blasey. Bowers. Clays. Corson. Dietrich. Dahl. Erickson. Bag. Voscudo. Francisco. Gossage. Haley. Holland. Holscher. Kirshen. Cluse. Longbine. Masterson. McGinn. Olson. O'Shea. Peck. Peterson. Petty. Pittman. Pyle. Reddy. Reichman. Schallenberger. Steffen. Straub. Sykes. Thompson. Tyson. Ware. Warren. Wilborn.
Senators and guests, please rise and give prayerful attention to our chaplain.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, as leaders, whether at home, in the community, or in this house, our positions are being sought after. There are those wanting their word to be the last word. They come at us with their own agenda, their own way of thinking. Even some that are close, near, and dear to us. But the truth is, you've already given us an agenda, a to-do list. Through your Old Testament prophet Micah, chapter 6, verse 8, you said, we're to do good, to do what is right, to love mercy, and walk humbly with you as our God. As the one in charge, help us to stay true to your agenda. Help us stick to convictions that are firmly grounded in principles of yours rather than human preferences that are subject to whims. In Acts chapter 4, verse 18, while facing opposition and rejection, Peter and John chose to stay true to your agenda rather than be influenced by others. In the same way that we make minor adjustments in the steering wheel to remain in the center of a straight highway, help us, Lord, on this highway of life that you have given us, to only make adjustments that keep us going straight according to the map you've laid out for us. We need your word to be the last word. I offer this prayer in the name of him who, according to John chapter 1, verse 1, is the Word personified. Amen and amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On a point of personal privilege, the chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Holscher.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, we are recognizing Nor Heathery, a junior at Blue Valley High School, along with her science teacher, Diane Dunn. If you could stand up, ladies. Early last month, Nor was announced as the winner of the 2023 Breakthrough Junior Challenge, an annual global science competition for high school students. Her project was a video she created on the subject of blue screen light, the light that comes from computer screens, and how it interferes with sleep. In winning this challenge, Nor beat out thousands of challengers from over 200 countries in the world. So she's kind of a big deal. For her accomplishment, Nor won a scholarship to the college of her choice. She won an award for her science teacher who inspired her, And she won a state-of-the-art lab for science research and exploration at her high school. During her award recognition ceremony at the high school, Noor and her parents praised the teachers and communities at Blue Valley High School, thanking them for their constant support. Ms. Dunn, her science teacher, has worked as a public school teacher for 32 years, working at Blue Valley Schools for 25. We thank her for her dedication to our schools and our students. Other thing that you need to know about Noor is that in 5th grade, she was voted most likely to cure a disease. We can't wait to see her work toward her goals and accomplish more fantastic feats. Noor is here today along with her parents, Nisreen and Abbas, her brother Adam, Aunt Maria, as well as her teacher that inspired her, Diane Dunn. Please join me in congratulating Noor, her family, and her teacher, Ms. Dunn.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Warren, were you seeking recognition on this point?
I am, Mr. President.
You're recognized.
Thank you, appreciate that. And I want to speak about Noor and her family on a personal level. I have known Noor and her family since Noor was a baby in daycare with my daughter, who's the same age. They're now juniors in high schools, and actually they're my backyard neighbor as well. So have enjoyed getting to know their family. And Miss Dunn has been my other daughter's science teacher as well, and I have an 8th grade son who maybe will be in her science class next year in high school. So congratulations to the family. I had no doubt since I've known you all these years, Noor, that this would be something in your future, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for you and your family. And my family joins in congratulating you and your family as well. So congratulations to all of you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, congratulations. And welcome to the Senate. We're honored to have you. On second point of personal privilege, Chair recognizes the Senator from Shawnee, Senator O'Shea.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we have youth from the Kansas Resist Youth Council. They want to stand up. They're here for an annual Takedown Tobacco Day, which is observed across the nation during the month of March. First observed in 1996 as Kick Butts Day. Now Takedown Tobacco Day encourages and empowers students annually to stand out, speak up, and seize control against tobacco. The goals include raising awareness of the problem of tobacco and e-cigarette use, encouraging students to reject deceptive marketing and stay tobacco-free, and urging government leaders to safeguard youth against tobacco and e-cigarette use through official action. The students are Ren Ditters, Dalton Ent, Jaden Dole, and Alexander Poling. Thanks for being here.
Introduction of original motions and Senate resolutions, clerk will read.
Senate Resolution number 1712 by Senators Holland and others, a resolution recognizing the Kansas Small Business Development Center's 2023 Businesses of the Year.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fellow senators, this is my exciting day every year on the Senate floor. I am really excited here once again to have a wonderful organization, Kansas Small Business Development Centers, here today with us. But even more important, the small businesses from around the state that are being recognized for all their great work that they do. I'm particularly excited about this group because as a small business owner myself, a couple of my businesses, I have used the Kansas Small Business Development Centers, in my case, the one out of the Lawrence office, for a couple different things. I've had a mature small business that basically we need to figure out some new things to do with that to increase some revenues. And so from an economic gardening perspective, the KSBDC has some wonderful tools and aids they can provide small businesses that are established in the community. Also, I have a startup business, and they actually help me do some really integral initial business strategy and formulation as far as what that startup need to look like and how we could actually reach out and go find some subject matter experts, stuff I didn't understand at all, to help get my startup going. But once again, we're here today to recognize these businesses, and there's three groups of businesses we recognize. There's the emerging businesses, there's the existing businesses, and then there are the exporters. And I do want to take just a quick, if folks could just briefly, behind me is the KSBDC staff, and we also have some representatives from the Small Business Administration as well too. Just give them a brief round of applause before we applaud the other folks. And Mr. President, with that, I would be happy to yield to the Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Erickson.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is my honor today to recognize the Kansas Small Business Development Center's 2023 Businesses of the Year, and I would also like to thank Senator Holland for all of his hard work in making this honor available today. I would ask the reader to read, and as he reads, if you would please stand, and I'm going to kick it off here by asking Veronica and Corey Johnston to stand from the Field and Ivy Brewery. If you could please stand and remain standing as the reader reads.
Whereas, the mission of the Kansas Small Business Development Center, or SBDC, a member of the national organization America's SBDC, is to increase economic prosperity in Kansas by helping entrepreneurs and small business owners in a wide variety of industries across the state start and grow their business through professional consulting and training and the identification of appropriate resources. Whereas, the Kansas SBDC has supported over 104,229 clients, offered 21,454 training classes, taught over 228,995 training attendees, and spent 501,259 hours in counseling and small businesses. And whereas, the Kansas SBDC elected 8 Emerging Businesses of the Year award recipients, 7 Existing Businesses of the Year award recipients, and 1 Exporting Business of the Year award recipient. And whereas, the 16 Kansas SBDC award recipients will be recognized during the Kansas SBDC Annual Awards Ceremony on March 2nd, 2023. And whereas, the Kansas SBDC's awards are designed to recognize Kansas SBDC clients for superior performance, and whereas, award recipients have achieved major accomplishments, overcome significant obstacles, shown growth and positive economic impact, which is based on a record of profitability and the Kansas SBDC Economic Impact Tracking Spreadsheet, and demonstrated good corporate citizenship through community contributions. And whereas, the Kansas 2023 Kansas SBDC Emerging Businesses of the Year are Trox Gallery and Gifts in Emporia, Kansas, owned by Kayla Mock, GTR Limousine and Party Services in Great Bend, Kansas, owned by Ruth Joyner, Cap Creations in Olathe, Kansas, owned by Rashonda Wright, Lyons Realty Group in Fort Scott, Kansas, owned by Bailey Lyons, Hickory Hollow in Spearville, Kansas, owned by Allison Langloy, Cold Steel Sluggers, LLC in Manhattan, Kansas, owned by Chris Wetherington, Sew in 2 Quilts in Hutchinson, Kansas, owned by Karna Lackey, and Fields and Ivy Brewery in Lawrence, Kansas, owned by Corey Johnston. And whereas, the 2023 Kansas SBDC Existing Businesses of the Year are Allen Meat Processing in Allen, Kansas, owned by Donna and Mike Ewell, Little Building Blocks Daycare in Gardner, Kansas, owned by Marcia Booten, Braden Peak's Roto Runner Plumbing and Draining Services in Pittsburgh, Kansas, owned by Braden Peak, Stumpy's Smoked Cheese in Topeka, Kansas, owned by Quint and Stacy Cook, Wichita Pet Wellness in Wichita, Kansas, owned by Christy Rafferty, Home Sweet Home Dog Resort in Lawrence, Kansas, owned by Anthony Barnett, and RSVP Med Spa and Cosmetic Eye Institute in Overland Park, Kansas, owned by Selena Fu. And whereas, the 2023 Kansas SBDC Exporting Business of the Year is Aerial Mod, Inc. in Manhattan, Kansas, owned by Todd Steinbeck and Rob Manhan. And whereas, the Kansas SBDC award recipients serve as examples of success that the Kansas SBDC and small business owners across Kansas can achieve. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the State of Kansas that we recognize the Kansas Small Business Development Center's 2023 Businesses of the Year, and be it further resolved that we wish all of the award recipients, the Kansas SBDC and America's SBDC, continued success in the future.
Senator from Sedgwick.
Thank you. I would ask my fellow senators to join me in congratulating these award winners this year. Mr. President, I so relate to the words from the good senator from Douglas, Senator Holland. My parents were small business owners. I know the sacrifices that you make that your family makes. Thank goodness I was never subject to child labor laws. I'm sure we violated it many times in my family because that's what you do as a small business owner and as a family. You do whatever it takes. And those skills and that work ethic have served me well my entire life. And so I so appreciate all that you do. I appreciate the Small Business Development Council for what they do in recognizing these businesses. And with that, Mr. President, I move an emergency be declared, the rule suspended, and Senate Resolution 1712 be adopted by voice vote.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion's adopted. Buddy, we're going to have the Senate stand at ease for a minute while we change out our VIP section. So Senate will be at ease. Senate will return to order. Point of personal privilege, Chair recognizes the senator from Leavenworth, Senator Pittman.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, yesterday we had a day of students that were troops, right? Well, this is troops of a different type. These are theater troops we're recognizing today from all across Kansas. We have students on today's theater day at the Capitol from Andover, Emporia High School, Fort Scott, Garden City, Goddard, Lansing, Lawrence, Mays High, McPherson, Olathe North, Olathe South, Olathe West, Pittsburgh, Salina High, Seaman High School, Topeka High School, Mulvane, Topeka West, and Valley Center High School. That's a lot of kids out here. And I've got to tell you, theater has changed a lot since we were kids. I've been to productions in my local schools, and it's phenomenal the way these programs have grown. I know in Leavenworth High School, for example, well over 200 or 300 kids working on some of the productions where they pull in folks from shop and other classes. And so I'm really excited today to recognize the kids that do these theater programs, and importantly, to have them up at the Capitol advocating for the strengths that theater brings to them, relate their stories, and relate to us why it's so important to have theater specifically and the arts in general. We recognize sports members a lot of times and the accomplishments they do. These kids put together these shows that are phenomenal and they compete. We've got international winners, we've got Gold Star chapters here in the state of Kansas. Kansas has really turned up the heat in terms of the number of kids, over 2,900 kids active in junior high school and high school, as well as 98 active thespian clubs across the state of Kansas. And we've really become a leader in terms of the Education Theater Association across the nation. And I'll just two or three points when we talk about theater. Some of the advocates came in and really talked to me about their experiences and why it was so important. And there's a sense of community they get. There's studies that show that kids that are high risk are 3 times more likely to stay in school, not drop out if they can get into or they participate in theater programs, which is phenomenal. They perform better on SATs and other things statistically when they get in there. And importantly, they've got a community that often has a diverse set of individuals, and it gives them that sense of unity and belonging instantly when they're working through these extensive projects. And lastly, I'll just mention another thing that I think is so phenomenal is the skills they develop as they learn to memorize lines, as they learn to present themselves, they learn to speak to an audience, what it means to have an audience and to present yourself out to the world and work with other individuals that can be hard. They learn to love, they learn to cry, they learn to show emotions on stage, and that helps them understand, what do those things mean and how do we present these things out. And so with that, I want to recognize a few people over here. I'll just read off some of the names from the Kansas Thespians group. We have, if you will, stand as I mention your name, Elijah Smith, Isaac Lowe, Noah Hastings, Sarah Sutherland, Alexis Benson, Emma Culbertson, Haley Loya, Emily Streeter, Ainsley McGee, Emma Dugan, Aaliyah Williams, and Megan, the coach, if you will. She's the director of theater at Valley Falls and head of the Kansas Thespians Advocacy, Miss Megan Upton Tyner. And I don't have your name, so Emily, and we have Emily. I am so sorry, Emily. And so if we can, I just want to recognize these folks for everything they do, everything that they do in terms of coming up here and advocating for your students across the state, communicating with us and helping us understand your viewpoints as well, because that's so important to us to understand your viewpoint as we deliberate up here. And Senate, if we could give these guys a round of applause and welcome to the Senate. Mr. President, if we could just put remarks in the journal in terms of just recognizing that we recognize the Theater in Our Schools Day at the Capitol.
So ordered, and we're honored to have you here, especially Emily for putting up with Senator Pittman. All right, body, up to work. Introduction of bills and concurrent resolutions. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill number 283, by Committee on Federal and State Affairs, an act concerning real property. Senate Bill number 284, by Committee on Ways and Means, an act concerning disability services. Senate Bill number 285, by Committee on Federal and State Affairs, an act concerning veterans and military. Senate Bill number 286, by Committee on Federal and State Affairs, an act concerning abortion. Senate Bill number 287, by Committee on Federal and State Affairs, an act concerning the Kansas Silver Alert Plan. Senate Bill number 288, by Committee on Federal and State Affairs, an act concerning driver's licenses. Senate Bill number 289, by Committee on Federal and State Affairs, an act concerning crimes, punishment, and criminal procedure. And Senate Bill number 290, by Committee on Federal and State Affairs, an act concerning elections.
This constitutes introduction of Senate Bill 283 through Senate Bill 290. Please note references to bills on page 1 through 14 of the calendar. Please see the March 2nd journal for a report from the following agency: Kansas Fights Addiction Grant Review Board. Messages from the House. Clerk will read.
Announcing passage of House Bill 2176 and House Bill 2290. Also announcing passage of Senate Bill 39. House Bill 2176, an act concerning library districts. House Bill 2290, an act concerning higher education.
This constitutes introduction of those bills previously read. Are there announcements? Senator from Riley, Senator Reddy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an announcement for March 8th is International Women's Day, and I would like to propose a resolution on that day. And I'm inviting all my legislators here to sign on with me as sponsors for that. There are only 5 whereases, and the one that I think is most important is whereas International Women's Day is a day to celebrate the collective power of women, upholding women's achievements, recognize challenges, focus greater attention to women's rights and gender equity, equality, encourage and mobilize all people to do their part to bring out a positive change. Once again, I'm requesting everybody to sign on, and if you would like to read it, it'll be right here with me, or you can come meet me in my office. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 3 pages with me today from Robinson Middle School here in Topeka, Kansas. They're 8th graders. I have Naomi White. You can just wave or stand up, Naomi. DeKendrick Atkins and Elijah Gordon, and they've had a great day learning more about government in our Kansas legislature. So welcome.
Senator from Meade, Senator Reichman.
Thank you, Mr. Boss. Today, we have a couple pages that I'm very proud of. They traveled 300 miles. That's just one way uphill. Holden Kite, Stan. Jackson Nason, Stan. And then Tim Nation. Oops, he was over there. Oh, there he is. All right, give him a hand. Thank you.
Senator from Sherman, Senator Billinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Ways and Means will meet tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Thank you.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also had the joy of having 2 pages with me today, and I'll ask them to stand. Grayson Kuntz and Gavin Kuntz. You might be able to tell that they're brothers.
Senator from Wyandotte, Senator Petty.
Thank you. So I'm going to join this welcome pages, but my pages are actually working. So they're out working, but they're here from Argentine Middle School in Kansas City, Kansas, and their names are Liberty, Kaylee, and Damon, and they're 8th graders at Argentine Middle School.
Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich, is this a rebuttal on your pages not working, or is that?
Thank you. May I do another announcement, Mr. President? So this is the shrimp peel announcement, and I've got some really good news, and this is kind of a challenge. We have a senator here who has pages, who was the very first person to bring baskets in for the silent auction, and that would be the senator from Meade, Senator Reichman. So I would encourage all of you, bring them in to our offices. We're happy to collect it for you. If you just want to give money, that's okay too. The check could be made out to the Special Olympics of Kansas. And remember, April 3rd, 5:30 at the Ag Hall. Great opportunity for us to show how much special education means to us in the state. So I'm looking forward to your baskets. His were phenomenal. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Oh, Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Faust-Cadeau.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to take the opportunity, since we won't be here on March 3rd, to wish Senator Jeff Pittman happy birthday. And also, Mr. President, if she's listening, Senator Molly Baumgartner, her birthday is March 4th. So happy birthday, Molly. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any further announcements? Seeing none, Chair recognizes the Majority Leader from Cali, Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate adjourn pro forma until 9 a.m. on Friday, March 3rd, 2023.
Further motion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Senate's adjourned.